The man in room 814 wasn't supposed to wake up that night. Someone had made sure of it. I remember thinking that at 2:17 in the morning, standing beneath the cold fluorescent lights of St. Vincent Medical Center with a paper cup of coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard. My name is Emily Carter. I was 27, 6 years into nursing, and halfway through a 12-hour night shift that had somehow become 15. The ICU was unusually quiet. Machines hummed. Air vents whispered. Somewhere down the hall, a cart wheel squeaked every few seconds. Room 814 had been my responsibility for 3 nights. The patient was Adrian Moretti, 34 years old. Male. Severe trauma complications. Medically induced coma that should have ended days earlier. That was everything his chart officially told me. Unofficially, everyone knew more. 2 men in dark suits stood outside his room around the clock. They never drank coffee, never checked their phones, never seemed tired. And whenever a doctor asked questions about Mr. Moretti's visitors, the answers became strangely vague. I had learned not to ask. Hospitals teach you that. Sometimes the safest way through a night shift is to focus on blood pressure, oxygen levels, medication times, and the small human being beneath all the mystery. At 2:17, I entered Adrian's room to check his IV. That was when I noticed it. The bag hanging beside his bed wasn't the one I had connected 20 minutes earlier. I stopped. Just stopped. The label looked correct. Same medication. Same concentration. Same patient name. But nurses live in details. The tubing clamps sat at a different angle. The tape I always folded at the corner for easier removal had been pressed flat. And the timestamp on the bag was wrong by 11 minutes. My exhaustion vanished. I checked the electronic medication record. Nothing. No new order. No documented replacement. My pulse began climbing. Who changed this? I whispered. Adrian didn't answer. Of course he didn't. He had been unconscious for 11 days. I disconnected the line and hit the call button. Then I checked his pupils. His breathing. His pulse. Something felt wrong. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just wrong enough that every instinct I had developed over 6 years started shouting at once. I called the charge nurse, then the attending physician. While I waited, I followed protocol, replaced the questionable medication, and monitored him closely. His heart rate shifted. Once. Then again. Come on, Mr. Moretti. I leaned closer. You've caused enough paperwork already. It was ridiculous talking to him like that. But nurses talk to unconscious patients. Maybe because silence feels cruel. Maybe because we need to believe someone is still listening. His fingers moved. I froze. Mr. Moretti? Nothing. Then his eyelids tightened. My breath caught. I called his name again. His eyes opened. Dark. Focused. Far too focused for a man waking from 11 days of unconsciousness. He looked at me first. Then at the IV bag in my hand. Then toward the hallway. No confusion. No panic. Recognition. His voice came out rough, barely more than air. Lock the door. I stared at him. Mr. Moretti, you need to remain calm. His eyes found mine again. This time something cold moved behind them. Not fear. Certainty. Emily. My blood went still. I had never told him my name. He looked past me toward the narrow window in the door. Then he whispered 4 words that changed the rest of my life. They know I'm awake. Adrian's words barely carried over the hum of the monitors. They know I'm awake. For 1 second I forgot every protocol I had ever learned. Then training took over. I stepped toward the door and looked through the narrow glass panel. The hallway appeared normal. Too normal. The 2 men who had guarded Adrian's room every night were gone. My stomach tightened. Where are your security people? Adrian tried to lift his head. Pain crossed his face, but he swallowed it immediately. Gone means compromised. You've been unconscious for 11 days. I know. That answer stopped me. Most patients waking from prolonged sedation asked where they were. What day it was. What happened? Adrian Moretti asked none of those things. His gaze moved around the room like he was rebuilding a map. Door. Window. Monitor. For pole. Me. Lock it, he repeated. I can't lock an ICU room because a patient tells me to. You can if someone changed my medication. My hand tightened around the IV bag. He had noticed. Even waking from a coma, he had noticed. I lowered my voice. How do you know that? Because I heard you. My skin prickled. You were unconscious. Not all of it. The hallway elevator chimed. Adrian's eyes snapped toward the sound. Mine followed. Footsteps approached. Slow. Measured. Not the hurried rhythm of hospital staff. Adrian looked at me. Emily. There it was again. My name. How do you know who I am? Your badge. I glanced down. Of course. I almost laughed from relief, but nothing about his expression allowed it. The footsteps grew closer. I moved to the door. A man in a white coat appeared at the far end of the hallway. He walked toward room 814. Something immediately felt wrong. I knew most of the night physicians. Not personally maybe, but faces become familiar when you work enough overnight shifts. I had never seen him. He carried no tablet, no chart, no stethoscope, and his hospital badge was clipped backward. My heart began pounding. Adrian watched my face. You recognize him? No. Then don't open that door. The man stopped outside. 3 soft knocks. Night physician, he called. Routine assessment. I stared through the glass. His voice was calm, professional, almost perfect. Almost. I pressed the intercom. Which service? Silence. Just half a second. But in a hospital, half a second can tell you everything. Critical care. What's the attending's name? Another pause. Behind me, Adrian whispered. Emily. I didn't turn. The stranger smiled through the glass. It wasn't threatening. That somehow made it worse. I was asked to check Mr. Moretti. By whom? He didn't answer. Instead, his eyes dropped toward the 4 bags still in my hand. Then he walked away. No argument. No irritation. Nothing. Just quiet footsteps disappearing toward the stairwell. I finally breathed. Adrian closed his eyes briefly. You saw him before. I turned. What? 20 minutes ago. My mind raced backward. The medication check. The supply cart. The elevator opening while I charted at the nurse's station. A white coat passing behind me. I had barely looked up. Oh my God. Adrian opened his eyes. He changed it. I reached for the phone. I'm calling hospital security. No. That wasn't a suggestion. His voice stayed weak, but the authority behind it filled the room. Call your charge nurse. Tell her nothing else. I stared at him. You don't get to run my ICU. For the first time, something almost human appeared in his expression. Approval. Good, he whispered. Keep that attitude. I picked up the phone anyway. Then the overhead lights flickered. Once. Twice. And every monitor in room 814 went dark. The darkness lasted less than 2 seconds. It felt longer. Long enough for me to hear Adrian's breathing change. Long enough for the backup lights to click on above the door. Long enough for every instinct in my body to tell me this was no ordinary power failure. Then the monitors restarted. 1 screen at a time. Green lines. Numbers. Soft alarms. I moved immediately. Stay still. Adrian looked almost amused. I'm not exactly going anywhere. I checked his pulse manually while the equipment recalibrated. Steady. Weak but steady. My hands were calm. Inside I was anything but. The phone on the wall was dead. I tried again. Nothing. Hospital systems have backups, I said. They do. Then why is this phone out? Adrian's gaze settled on the ceiling camera in the corner. The small red indicator light was gone. My mouth went dry. That camera was working 10 minutes ago. I know. I stared at him. You notice everything, don't you? It keeps me alive. The words were quiet. Not proud. Not dramatic. Just factual. That bothered me more. I crossed to the door and tested the handle. Locked. From the inside. I had done it without even realizing. Adrian noticed. You listened. I made a temporary clinical judgment. Of course. I shot him a look. Don't enjoy this. A faint expression touched his face. Not quite a smile. Then footsteps sounded outside again. More than one person this time. My shoulders tightened. Emily. I hear them. Someone knocked. 3 quick taps. Emily? It's Rachel. Relief hit me so fast my knees almost weakened. Rachel Donovan was the charge nurse. I moved toward the door. Adrian's voice stopped me. Ask her something only she would know. I turned. That's ridiculous. Maybe. Another knock. Emily, open up. We lost communication with this room. Rachel sounded irritated. Normal. Familiar. Still, Adrian's warning stayed in my head. I pressed closer to the door. Rachel, what did you steal from the break room refrigerator tonight? Silence. Then an exhausted sigh. Your vanilla yogurt. And I'm not sorry. I unlocked the door. Rachel entered carrying a portable monitor and wearing the expression of a woman already planning paperwork. What happened? Localized power interruption, I said. Phone and camera failed too. Her eyebrows pulled together. That's not localized. Adrian spoke from the bed. Who controls access to this floor? Rachel looked at him, then froze. You're awake. I've gathered that. Her eyes widened. She looked at me. When? About 6 minutes ago. And you didn't call me? I tried. Rachel glanced toward the dead phone. Right. She stepped closer to Adrian, automatically shifting into nurse mode. Mr. Moretti, I'm Rachel Donovan. I need to assess. No, Rachel blinked. I'm sorry. First, tell me who entered this room in the last hour. Her expression changed. I'd have to check the access log. Do it. She looked at me. I gave a small nod. Rachel left. The moment the door closed, Adrian said, She trusts you. She supervises me. That wasn't what I said. I ignored him and checked the 4 pump again. Your people disappeared. A stranger accessed your medication. The power failed. Now what? Adrian watched me for a long second. Now we find out who benefits from me staying asleep. I met his eyes. And why am I suddenly part of that? His answer came immediately. Because you notice what everyone else missed. Before I could respond, Rachel returned. Her face had gone pale. The access log was erased. Adrian didn't move, but something in the room changed. Rachel swallowed. There's more. What? She looked directly at me. The last badge recorded before the system went blank was yours. Rachel's words hung between us. The last badge recorded was yours. I stared at her. That's impossible. I know. No, Rachel. I mean impossible. My badge has been on me all night. My hand went automatically to the plastic card clipped near my shoulder. Still there. My photo. My name. My employee number. Nothing looked wrong. Adrian watched me carefully. Can badges be copied? Rachel hesitated. Not easily. That wasn't my question. Yes, she admitted. Technically. A chill moved through me. I looked toward the hallway. Every person passing suddenly seemed different. A respiratory therapist pushing equipment. A custodian carrying fresh linens. A resident reading something on his tablet. People I saw every night. People I trusted because they belonged here. Maybe that was the problem. Adrian shifted slightly against the pillow. You need to leave this floor. I turned back. I'm not abandoning a patient. You're no longer just treating one. I don't care who you are outside this hospital. His eyes sharpened. You should. I care what your blood pressure is. I care that someone tampered with your medication. I care that you're awake after 11 days and trying to behave like that's normal. Rachel looked between us. Emily. No, the word came out harder than I intended. I lowered my voice. If somebody copied my credentials, leaving doesn't make me safer. It makes me look guilty. Adrian's expression changed. Again, that strange flicker of approval. You think ahead. I work nights in intensive care. Thinking ahead is basically the job. Rachel exhaled. I'm calling administration. Don't, Adrian said. She stared at him. With respect, Mr. Moretti, hospital policy. Someone already has access to your systems. Silence. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. If you announce what you know, whoever did this changes strategy. Rachel's face tightened. I hated that he made sense. That was the first moment Adrian Moretti truly frightened me. Not because of who people whispered he was. Because he understood danger like I understood medicine. Patterns. Timing. Small abnormalities. And he was looking at the hospital the way I looked at a failing patient. Rachel folded her arms. So what exactly are you suggesting? Adrian looked at me. Nothing changes. I almost laughed. Everything changed 10 minutes ago. To them it hasn't. I understood before Rachel did. You want whoever did this to think you're still unconscious. Yes. Rachel shook her head. That's insane. It's controlled. Those are not the same thing. For the first time Adrian smiled. Barely. I like your nurses. Rachel looked offended. I almost did too. Then the elevator doors opened. 3 men in tailored dark suits stepped onto the floor. Rachel stiffened. I recognized 2 of them. Adrian's security. The men who had disappeared earlier. The third was older, silver-haired, calm. He walked directly toward room 814. Adrian's expression became unreadable. Turn off the lights, he said. What? Now. Something in his voice made me move. I dimmed the room. Adrian closed his eyes. His body went still. The monitor kept its steady rhythm. Rachel looked at me like we had both lost our minds. Then the door opened. The silver-haired man entered. His gaze landed on Adrian, then on me. He smiled politely. Miss Carter. I had never met him, but he knew my name. I'm Daniel Moretti, he said. Adrian's uncle. Behind me, Adrian remained perfectly still. Daniel stepped closer to the bed and whispered, Such a shame he still hasn't woken up. Daniel Moretti's smile never changed. That was what unsettled me. Not the expensive charcoal suit. Not the 2 silent men behind him. The smile. Polite. Measured. Completely wrong for a man standing beside his unconscious nephew at 3 in the morning. Rachel stepped closer to me. Visiting hours ended a long time ago. Daniel glanced at her badge. Ms. Donovan, I appreciate your concern. You know my name too? I make it a habit to know who cares for my family. My pulse climbed. Adrian remained perfectly still beneath the thin hospital blanket. If I hadn't watched him speak minutes earlier, I would have believed he was unconscious. Daniel approached the bed. How has he been tonight? I forced myself into my professional voice. Stable. No changes. I looked directly at him. No significant changes. The lie tasted strange. Daniel studied me for a second too long. Then his gaze shifted toward the 4-pole. The replacement bag hung there. Fresh tubing. Fresh label. His eyes stopped on it. Only briefly. But I saw it. So did Adrian. I knew because one finger beneath the blanket moved almost imperceptibly. Daniel looked back at me. Was his medication changed? Routine replacement. At this hour? Medication doesn't care what time it is. Rachel made a tiny sound that might have been a cough hiding a laugh. Daniel didn't smile this time. One of the men behind him stepped toward the hallway window, scanning the floor. I recognized him as one of Adrian's guards. That bothered me. If Adrian believed his security had been compromised, why had these men returned with Daniel? Daniel rested one hand on the bed rail. You must understand, Ms. Carter, my nephew has enemies. I'm his nurse. Which places you closer to him than most people. There was nothing threatening in his tone. That made every word heavier. I'm close to all my ICU patients. Of course. He looked down at Adrian. Our family has been waiting for him to wake. My throat tightened. Waiting. Not hoping. Waiting. Daniel checked his watch. A silver one that caught the monitor light. Then he turned toward the door. Call me personally if anything changes. I don't have your number. You will. He walked out. The 2 guards followed. Rachel waited until the elevator doors closed. Then she whispered, Tell me I'm imagining this. Adrian opened his eyes. You're not. Rachel nearly jumped. Jesus. He ignored her. His attention stayed on me. What did he look at first? You're 4. Exactly. My stomach dropped. That doesn't prove anything. No, Adrian's voice was quieter now. But it tells us where to look. I crossed my arms. You think your uncle was involved? I think assumptions get people buried in mistakes. There was something personal beneath those words. Something old. I noticed it. So you don't trust him? Adrian looked toward the dark window. I trusted him enough to give him access to everything. That answer said more than yes. Rachel rubbed her forehead. I'm going to review pharmacy records manually. Paper copies. Anything that wasn't erased. I'll come with you, I said. No, Adrian's voice stopped me. I turned. You're not giving orders again. You leave this room, you become easier to isolate. I'm a nurse, not your prisoner. His jaw tightened. Then he did something unexpected. He looked away first. You're right. The room went quiet. Rachel and I exchanged a glance. Adrian Moretti, apologizing apparently, was stranger than the blackout. He looked back at me. I'm asking, Emily. Stay until we understand who copied your batch. That changed something. Not because he sounded powerful. Because for the first time he didn't. Rachel left alone. I pulled a chair beside the bed. 5 minutes passed. Then Adrian spoke. There's something else. What? When I was unconscious, I heard a voice. I leaned closer. Whose? His eyes met mine. My uncle's. A chill moved through me. What did he say? Adrian's answer came barely above a whisper. He said I should have stayed asleep the first time. For a moment, the only sound in room 814 was the monitor beside Adrian's bed. Beep, beep, beep. Steady. Controlled. Nothing like the thoughts racing through my head. You're sure it was Daniel? Adrian stared at the ceiling. I've known his voice since I was 6. What exactly did he mean by the first time? His jaw tightened. That's a longer story. We may not have longer. That made him look at me. For the first time since he woke, I saw exhaustion beneath the control. Not physical exhaustion. Something older. 3 years ago, he said. I almost died after a business meeting went wrong. I waited. My uncle found me first. And saved you. That's what I believed. The words settled heavily between us. I pulled the chair closer. You think he caused this? I think someone wants me alive enough to avoid questions, but unconscious enough to stop asking them. That distinction chilled me. Before I could respond, the door opened. Rachel stepped inside carrying a manila folder. Her face told me she had found something. I went old school. She dropped several printed pharmacy sheets onto the counter. Paper archive from Central Pharmacy. Adrian pushed himself slightly higher. I immediately reached for the bed controls. Don't. I'm adjusting your bed, not your empire. Rachel snorted. Adrian almost smiled. Then Rachel pointed to the records. Your medication order was modified at 1:46 a.m. I looked at the clock. 31 minutes before I noticed the bag. Who authorized it? That's the problem. She slid the paper toward me. The physician authorization belonged to Dr. Samuel Pierce. I knew that name. Everyone did. Dr. Pierce had retired 8 months ago. That account should be inactive. It is. Rachel tapped the page. Except someone reactivated it tonight. Adrian looked at me. And used your badge for room access. 2 stolen identities. 1 medical. 1 nursing. Someone wasn't improvising. They had planned this. My phone vibrated in my scrub pocket. I jumped harder than I wanted to admit. Unknown number. 1 text message. Go home, Emily. I stared at the screen. Rachel read it over my shoulder. Oh, absolutely not. Adrian held out his hand. Let me see. I didn't give him the phone. No, his eyebrows lifted. This concerns me. It has my name on it. His expression shifted. Fair point. I read the message again. No threat. No explanation. Just 3 words. Go home, Emily. Rachel reached for the hospital phone. I'm calling security. Adrian shook his head. Not hospital security. You keep saying that. Because whoever is doing this knows your systems better than you do. I hated that he was right again. Then my phone buzzed a second time. A photograph appeared. My apartment building. Taken at night. My breath stopped. The image was recent. The lobby clock visible through the glass read 3:08 a.m. 2 minutes ago. Rachel whispered my name. Adrian's face became completely still. Do you live alone? I looked at him. Yes. He reached toward the bedside phone, remembered it was dead, then looked toward Rachel. Call Marcus. Who's Marcus? My head of security. Rachel hesitated. Adrian's voice hardened. Not the men outside. Marcus Bell. Only him. I folded my arms. You're not sending people to my apartment. His eyes met mine. No, a beat passed. I'm making sure nobody gets there before you do. That was different. So was his tone. No command. No ownership. Just concern. Rachel left to make the call. I stood beside Adrian's bed, staring at the photograph. You barely know me. I know enough. What does that mean? His gaze moved to the 4-bag I had removed earlier. It means you saw something wrong when everyone else walked past it. He paused. And now someone knows you saw it too. My phone buzzed again. This time there were no words. Just another photograph. My apartment door. And hanging from the doorknob was my hospital ID badge. I stared at the photograph until the screen blurred. That's impossible. My badge was still clipped to my scrubs. I touched it anyway. Same photo. Same name. Same ID number. Adrian's eyes narrowed. They made a duplicate. Rachel returned before I could answer. Marcus Bell is downstairs. Adrian's entire posture changed. Alone. Yes. Bring him up. Rachel disappeared again. I looked at Adrian. You trust this, Marcus? With my life. That's comforting, considering your current condition. A shadow crossed his face. Exactly. 3 minutes later, Marcus Bell entered room 814. He was in his early 40s, broad-shouldered, wearing a navy overcoat over a plain gray suit. No dramatic entrance. No entourage. He looked more like a federal investigator than the head of security for a man like Adrian. Marcus stopped when he saw him awake. For the first time all night, Adrian looked relieved. You took your time. Marcus exhaled. Good to see you too. Then his attention shifted to me. Emily Carter? I stiffened. How does everyone know my name? Marcus held up both hands. Because Mr. Moretti gave it to me. Better. Slightly. Adrian showed him the photograph on my phone. Marcus studied it. I already sent someone to check the building. You sent someone? I snapped. He looked at me calmly. A retired police officer who lives 2 blocks away. Nobody entered your apartment. The duplicate badge was hanging outside. So they wanted me to see it. Adrian nodded. They're trying to move you. Move me where? Anywhere away from this room. That idea landed hard. I looked at the 4-bag, the erased access records, the fake physician, my copied credentials. This wasn't just about frightening me. Someone wanted Adrian isolated. Marcus turned toward him. There's something you need to know. Adrian waited. Daniel called a family meeting for 8 this morning. My eyes moved between them. For what? Marcus answered me. To discuss temporary control of Moretti Holdings. Adrian gave a humorless laugh. There it is. I frowned. You're telling me somebody kept you unconscious because of a company? Not a company. He looked toward the dark window. An empire wearing a company's name. The room seemed smaller suddenly. Marcus placed a folder on the bedside table. Daniel has signatures from 3 board members already. If you remain medically incapacitated, he becomes acting chairman. Adrian looked almost disappointed. Not surprised. That bothered me. You expected this? I expected ambition. He glanced at the monitor. I didn't expect patience. I folded my arms. So what now? Marcus answered immediately. We move Adrian somewhere secure. No, Adrian and I said it at the same time. We looked at each other. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I spoke first. He just woke from an 11-day coma. He isn't leaving an ICU because it's inconvenient. Adrian spoke next. And if I disappear, Daniel knows the plan failed. I stared at him, then understood. You want him to come back? Yes. Rachel stepped inside again. You people keep making terrible ideas sound reasonable. For once I agreed completely, but my mind was already working. The fake medication order, the duplicate badge, the missing access log. All of it depended on someone believing nobody inside the hospital was watching closely enough. What if we let him think that? Adrian looked at me. I pointed to the chart. Your status stays unchanged. No announcement. No transfer. No updated neurological notes. Marcus leaned forward. And we give them a reason to try again. Adrian's expression sharpened. No, I blinked. That was your idea. Not with you involved. A strange silence followed. I almost smiled. The man who locked me in a hospital room is suddenly worried about boundaries? His eyes held mine. I learned quickly. Then Marcus's phone vibrated. He read the message. His face changed. What? Marcus looked at Adrian. Daniel just canceled the 8 o'clock meeting. Adrian went still. Marcus continued. He moved it here. I felt cold all over. When? Marcus looked toward the hallway. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That was how long we had before Daniel Moretti walked back into room 814 believing his nephew was still unconscious. Rachel closed the blinds. Marcus checked the hallway. I checked Adrian. His blood pressure was climbing. You need to stop trying to sit up. I need to look convincing. You looked convincing when you were actually unconscious. He gave me a tired look. Helpful. I adjusted his pillow and lowered the lights. The room became dim again. Quiet. Ordinary. That was the strange part. Everything looked exactly like an ICU room at 4 in the morning. Nothing about it suggested betrayal. Marcus placed his phone on the counter. Audio recording. I looked at him. Is that legal? In New York, one-party consent. Adrian opened one eye. I'm the party. Rachel muttered. Of course you are. The elevator chimed. Every muscle in my back tightened. Marcus stepped into the adjoining family consultation room, leaving the door slightly open. Rachel returned to the nurse's station. I remained beside Adrian, exactly where Daniel expected me to be. The door opened. Daniel entered alone this time. He carried a leather folder. Miss Carter. I nodded. Mr. Moretti. His gaze went immediately to Adrian. Still. Silent. Eyes closed. Daniel approached the bed. How is he? Unchanged. Any neurological response? No documented improvement. That wording mattered. I watched his face. Nothing. He opened the folder. Then I'm afraid we have decisions to make. What kind? Family decisions. He placed several documents on the bedside table. Temporary executive authority. Medical incapacity certification. Board authorization. I recognized enough legal language to understand the point. Daniel needed Adrian unable to speak for himself. You came to have these signed in a hospital room? Daniel smiled. Sometimes business cannot wait. I looked down at Adrian. His breathing remained slow, perfectly measured. Daniel reached into his jacket and removed a pen. Dr. Harrison should be here shortly. My stomach tightened. I don't know a Dr. Harrison. You don't need to. That was the first mistake he made. Too fast. Too confident. I looked at him. What department? Daniel's eyes shifted toward me. Neurology. We don't have a Dr. Harrison in neurology. Silence. Small. Sharp. Daniel closed the pen. You're remarkably observant. So I've been told. His polite expression faded by half an inch. That was enough. Miss Carter, perhaps you should take a break. I'm responsible for this patient. Not for much longer. Behind me, Adrian's monitor kept beeping. Steady. 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 Daniel leaned closer to the bed. I tried to make this simple. My heartbeat changed. His voice had dropped. I gave you time, Adrian. Adrian did not move. Daniel continued. You could have stayed out of the way. My skin turned cold. There it was. Not proof of everything. But enough. Daniel's gaze fell on the 4-pump. You always had to wake up and take control again. Adrian opened his eyes. Daniel froze. No dramatic movement. No shouting. Just silence. Adrian looked directly at his uncle. I heard you the first time too. The color left Daniel's face. Marcus entered from the consultation room. Daniel looked at him. Then at me. Understanding arrived slowly. You planned this. Adrian's voice remained calm. No, he glanced toward me. She did. Daniel stared at me differently now. Not as a nurse. As a problem. I surprised myself by holding his gaze. You copied my badge, I said. Daniel said nothing. Marcus lifted his phone. We have enough to start asking better questions. Daniel's composure cracked. Only slightly, but Adrian saw it. So did I. He pushed himself upright despite my glare. For years I thought power meant knowing who feared me. His eyes stayed on Daniel. Tonight I learned something better. Daniel looked toward the door. Hospital security was already arriving with Rachel. Adrian turned toward me. The person who saved me wasn't the strongest person in the room. He paused. She was the one paying attention. By sunrise, room 814 no longer felt like the same place. The blinds were open. Morning light stretched across the floor in pale gold bands. For the first time all night, nothing was hiding in the shadows. Daniel had been escorted away for questioning after hospital administrators reviewed the access records Marcus recovered from an offline backup. The fake physician credentials, the medication changes, the duplicated badge, none of it could be explained away anymore. Rachel stood at the nurse's station telling anyone who asked that she had survived the strangest shift of her career. I believed her. I was finishing Adrian's chart when he spoke. You should go home. I looked over. He was sitting higher now, color slowly returning to his face. Are you ordering me? No, he paused. I'm practicing. That made me smile despite myself. Progress. Marcus entered carrying 2 coffees. He handed one to me. Rachel said black, 2 sugars. I took it. Rachel talks too much. She saved me from guessing. Adrian watched us. Marcus placed several documents beside him. The board meeting is cancelled. Daniel's authority request is frozen pending investigation. Adrian barely looked at the papers. A few hours earlier, I would have expected those documents to matter more than anything. Instead, he looked at me. Your apartment is secure. I wrapped both hands around the warm coffee. Thank you. Your badge has been deactivated and replaced. Also good. Marcus glanced between us. I'll be outside. He left before I could ask why. Silence settled again. But this silence was different. Not dangerous. Just unfinished. I checked Adrian's blood pressure one final time. Better. You sound disappointed. I enjoy being right. I noticed. I removed the cuff. My shift ended hours ago. I noticed that too. I reached for my bag. Adrian's expression changed. Just slightly. Emily. I stopped. He looked toward the door. The same door he had ordered locked when his eyes first opened. I spent most of my life believing closed doors meant safety. I said nothing. He continued. If nobody could reach me, nobody could surprise me. Nobody could take anything. His eyes returned to mine. It works. Does it? He considered that. No, I waited. Outside the room, carts rolled past. Phones rang. Morning nurses exchanged reports. Normal life had returned. Adrian looked almost uncomfortable with what he said next. You could have walked away last night. I was working. You stayed after it stopped being just work. I thought about that. I stayed because someone was using my hospital to hurt a patient. Still making it about professional ethics? Mostly. That faint smile appeared again. Then disappeared. When I leave here, people will tell you things about me. I already heard things. Some will be true. That doesn't surprise me. His gaze dropped briefly. I'm not asking you to ignore them. That surprised me. The Adrian Moretti I had met hours earlier would have issued instructions. This man was doing something harder. Giving me a choice. I stepped toward the door. My hand touched the handle. Behind me, he said. Emily. I turned. He looked at the open doorway. The first time I woke up, I told you to lock that door. I remember. This time, he stopped. For once, Adrian Moretti seemed unsure of the next words. Then he looked at me. I'd rather leave it open. I smiled. So would I. Weeks later, when Adrian finally walked out of St. Vincent Medical Center, I happened to be finishing another night shift. He stopped beside me in the lobby. No guards between us. No locked doors. Just morning light. And that was when I understood something. Power had never been his ability to close every door. It was learning which one to leave open.